Sri Lanka is now witnessing fresh protests as the government has launched a crackdown against those who were involved in demonstrations and the subsequent ouster of the Rajapaksa brothers. A number of them have been detained. People said the agencies were singling out the dissenters and were putting them behind bars. Such developments have attracted bad international press, and the human rights NGOs too have condemned the measures adopted by the new Wickremesinghe government. We bring you the story.
Hundreds of pro-democracy activists marched to Independence Square in Sri Lanka's commercial capital this week and demanded the release of detained demonstrators. These protests took place a month after massive protests forced the then President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to step down. Activists accuse Wickremesinghe and his government of cracking down on protesters who helped topple the government of Rajapaksa.
නිසා වහාම මර්ධනය නවත්තන්න, ජාතික සම්පත් විකිණීම නවත්තන්න, ජනතාවට සහන දෙන්න, රටේ තවදුරටත් ජනතාවට බරපතලවන්නේ නැතුව මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව විසරලා නව ජනවතනකට ඉඩ දෙන්න, ජනවරමකට ඉඩ දෙන්න කියන බලපෑම කරන්න තමයි මේ ප්‍රඥප්තිය පිළිපත් මේ ආඥාව ඉදිරිපත් කරේ.
Wickremesinghe, a six-time Prime Minister, took charge despite public anger with the ruling elite after months of severe shortages of fuel, food and medicines. Ranil Wickremesinghe was voted in as acting president in Sri Lanka by lawmakers on July 20, with many hoping his long experience in government could help pull the country out of crippling economic and political crisis. Later, he was elevated to the presidential position following an all-party consensus. Since then, hundreds of pro-democracy activists have carried out marches in and around capital Colombo, demanding the release of detained demonstrators and an end to the state of emergency imposed by the government.
ගිය දින 100කට වැඩි කාලයක් තිස්සේ මේ රටේ ජනතාව මේ දූෂිත පාලනයට මේ වංචනික පාලනයට එරෙහිව ඒ වගේ මේ රට විනාශයට එරෙහිව දැවැන්ත අරගලයක් කරා. ඒ අරගලෙන් පස්සේ දැන් එකිනෙකා දඩයම් කරන්න රනිල් රාජපක්ෂ ආණ්ඩුව කටයුතු කරමින් තිබෙනවා. මේ වන විට 10කට වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් පසුගිය කාල සීමාව තුලම අත්අඩංගුවට අරගෙන තිබෙනවා. සමහරව බන්ධනාගාරගත කරලා තිබෙනවා.
අදහස් පළ කිරීම දූෂණයට වංචාවට මර්ධනයට එරෙහි වීම අපේ අයිතියක්. ඒක රජයකින් අපිට පිරිනමන්න ඕනේ නෑ. ඒක මූලික අයිතියක් ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවේ. මේ සියලු ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී අවකාශ අද අහිමි වෙලා.
A New York Times report last week said several demonstration leaders have been arrested and others had received travel bans as authorities try to clear up the last remaining protest tents near key government buildings. Before it, the Human Rights Watch also said the Sri Lankan government was using emergency regulations to harass and arbitrarily detain activists seeking political reform and accountability for the country's economic crisis. Only a few days ago, the demonstrators had dismantled their structures at the main protest site outside the presidential palace after police announced an ultimatum for them to vacate the site. The site was occupied for 4 months and had major political decisions, including resignation and fleeing of Rajapaksa brothers and a change in the top positions of the government. The protesters are now demanding fresh elections in the country as they believe that current leadership too is part of the same elite group that Rajapaksas belong to. And they say they will not give up their struggle until the country sees a real change.